Hello, welcome to another IELTS video. My name's Bernie Wall, and if you haven't met me before, then I am an IELTS teacher and trainer, and I specialise in working with students who need Band 7 and 8 in their exam. So all of my training videos and the information that I share with you is aimed at getting you to Band 7 or 8, or in some cases 9, in the various parts of your IELTS exam. Today I want to look at IELTS reading, and I'm going to go through some techniques which I have mentioned before, and I'm sure you've all come across before. They're the sorts of things that students call tricks. Students often ask me for the tricks to get a good score in reading. So here are the tricks, and I hope that you will find them useful. So I have a presentation that I'll share with you now, and then we'll get started. So here are some valuable tricks for IELTS reading so that you can hopefully conquer the IELTS reading once and for all. Okay, so what are they? Right, well, firstly, I'm sorry, but they are not tricks. Tricks suggest a kind of shortcut, and in language learning, there aren't many shortcuts. It's a bit of a graft, and you have to practice, you have to understand, you have to put into practice, and then keep practicing until you can do them quickly and efficiently. So they are not really tricks. They are techniques and strategies that you can use and practice to get a high score in the reading. So the first thing is a strong language skill set, which means you must have a good level of English if you're looking to get Band 7, 8 and 9, a really good level. You also need some very solid technique for each part of the exam, but in the reading you need particularly solid techniques for finding the answers quickly. And you need some proven strategies, and the strategies that I'm going to mention to you here in this video are the ones that work, the ones that will get you to Band 7 if you practice them and practice them regularly. And finally, you do need a dash of luck on the day. So hopefully your reading passages will not be too esoteric. There'll be some that are familiar to you. There'll be language that's familiar to you. There'll be question types that you like, which will help you to get a higher score. So let's move on to each one of these in turn. So the first technique, or the first strategy, or the first trick, if you like, that you must have is a good level of English. Now, to get an IELTS Band 7 and 8, you're looking at advanced level English, so the beginning of advanced level English. And if you haven't got that level, then you're going to have to keep developing your English skills alongside your IELTS practice. So it's quite vital that your level of English is good, and the better it is, the easier the exam will be. So the first thing you can do if you're not sure about your level is to test yourself. And there are lots of tests online that you can try. I have a test myself, a multiple choice test, which will give you a good sense of your grammar and vocabulary level and your overall level of English. And that can be found on my website, IELTSlearningtips.com, under the free resources. The next thing you should do is a language audit. Now, by that I mean think about all of the things that you often make mistakes with in English, and they're going to be things you know about. So it might be that you have a spelling problem, or it could be that sometimes you have a pronunciation issue, or it could be that there are a few grammar things that you make mistakes with, maybe articles or prepositions or tenses, and it's a good idea to write all of those down. And when you write them down, then you know which areas you need to work on. Another thing you must do is to build your vocabulary. It's very important in IELTS reading to have a wide range of vocabulary, because the vocabulary in the exam can be quite sophisticated. So try to learn new words often. So maybe set yourself a target of 3 words every day or 10 words every week, and learn these. Check these words for their spelling, and not punctuation, sorry, that should be pronunciation, so that if you use them in the speaking, you know how to pronounce them well. So check them when you learn them, and try and get exposed to English regularly during your day. So read something, listen to something, speak, and try and write something, even if it's just 1 or 2 sentences. You could practice, for example, something like complex sentences without having to write a whole task. And try and do this with native speaker English. So read something online. It might be a newspaper article, listen to a podcast, or listen to something on the radio. If you can speak to native speakers, that's good, but speaking to colleagues or friends is fine too. And then, as I mentioned before, try and write a couple of sentences, and do this regularly, every day if possible. And then check any grammar mistakes that you make. So what are the grammar mistakes that you make? Have these in your language audit, and then go to a grammar resource, either a grammar book or an online grammar resource, and make sure you learn the rule for that particular grammar issue so that you can stop yourself making the mistake. The second thing you need to do for reading, for IELTS reading, is to read. A lot of students say to me, I don't like reading, there's too much reading, I prefer to watch video. There's no choice, you have to read. You have 3 quite dense passages to read, and you have to read. And if you don't practice doing that reading before you take the exam, then I'm afraid in the exam you're going to struggle. So you just have to accept that reading is part of the exam, and you will have to do it. And in my experience, those students who read regularly do get better results in their reading. Even if that reading is in your own language, you must do it in English, obviously, but reading in your own language will give you an idea about how text operates. Read anything, whatever you like. Magazines, fine. Stories, novels, if you enjoy those. If you don't, find something you do like. Journals. These could be your professional journals, which would be helpful also for your job. Blogs on the internet, something that you're interested in. And why not use the dead time you have when traveling, either by bus or train, to read some sort of text. And if you do it regularly, it will improve your vocabulary, and it will improve your understanding of how text works, and that will help you with the reading questions. The next thing is skimming and scanning. Now, these 2 things are really vital for speed, so you must practice them, and they will help you a lot in the reading exam and in your reading practice. Reading's not about comprehension. When we first learn a language, reading generally is about reading a text or reading a story, and then answering questions about what you understand from that. IELTS reading is not like that. IELTS reading is more like a study skill. It's about finding small pieces of information in a lot of text. So it's a completely different technique to comprehension. You must know the difference between skimming and scanning so that you can practice them properly. Skimming is to read quickly for an overview of what you're being told. And this you use in headings, in matching information to a paragraph, sometimes in a summary. So this is a good technique for those types of questions. Scanning is when you're looking for something specific. So these would be the keywords that you identify in your question, and you very quickly go through the text looking for these specific words or sometimes a specific phrase. And they are essential. So this technique is one that you must practice, and it's the way that you can do the whole of the reading test in the time. So it improves your speed. Practice them a lot, and then you'll find that you'll be able to do the reading much, much faster. Keywords are essential. You can't really do the reading test effectively if you don't know how to use keywords. So you must be able to identify the keywords in the question. And there are two types. One, I like to call the location keywords. So these would typically be names, numbers, technical words to do with the subject, dates. These kinds of words will help you to find the location very quickly from the question. And the second set of keywords are those which will help you to find the exact answer. They might be verbs, they might be nouns, but they also might be adverbs, adjectives, or they might be modifiers. So words like most, many, everybody, nobody, in the past, in the future. All of these can be quite vital to getting the exact answer, especially in things like yes, no, not given and true, false, not given. When these two types of keywords come together in the text, and often they will be in one sentence, sometimes in passage 3 they might be over 2 sentences, but when you find them or synonyms of them all together, then the answer should be very, very obvious. And the final technique or strategy is the ability to go quickly backwards and forwards from the question to the place in the text that you found with the keywords. It's vital to be able to toggle back and forth, because once you get to the text and you start reading the one or two sentences in the text, it's easy to forget exactly what the question was. And then you might be answering a question that you think it is rather than the question it actually is. So it's a good idea to go back to just check what exactly is it asking me. And again, in yes, no, not given and true, false, not given, this is a vital skill. You won't have to do it for every question. Sometimes, you know, you'll have the answer and you will just be able to go and write it down. But those questions which are a little more complex, such as, say, a multiple choice in the last section, or as I mentioned before, true, false, not given, yes, yes, no, not given. And also questions where you might have doubts, where you're not sure. You may have to go back and forth to the question. So find the place in the text. Check the keywords you've chosen. Sometimes they're going to be synonyms, as you know. And then when you've got all that together, go back to the question and say, right, what exactly does the question want me to find out? Paraphrase your question so you know exactly the answer that the question is looking for. And then you'll be able to pick the relevant words, 1, 2, or 3, generally, from the sentences that you've picked in the text to answer your question. So those are basically the tricks, if you like, but the techniques and strategies that you must practice and develop well in order to get a high score in the IELTS reading. So you can find an article related to this on my website, and there is a link to the website after this video, IELTSlearningtips.com. You'll also find some other free resources there and other articles related to this on IELTS reading. So thank you for watching. I hope that this is helpful, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.